Hello, everyone. This is Sarah Smith speaking, Assistant Director, Outreach and Engagement for Regional Alumni Programs. Welcome to today's webinar, Facebook Best Practices. Just wanted to start with a few reminders. This webinar is being recorded, and if you could please mute yourself. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat box and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. We're trying to keep the recording kind of playing and go straight through because we're going to upload it to our awesome new YouTube channel, which we will share with you guys after this. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce Altamise Curry. She is a 2007 mass communications grad, and she'll be taking you all through this Facebook best practices presentation today. She is currently a digital strategist and brand consultant. She's a published author, and she's worked with a lot of awesome brands that you all know and love on brand strategy and coaching them to amplify their voice on social media. So we're really excited to have her, and we are really excited that we could get a chapter leader from the Low Country chapter and your peer to present this webinar for you. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to Altamise Curry.
Awesome. Sarah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so with respect to everyone's time, please consider this a condensed version. So if you have any questions, as I'm going through, Sarah and the team will kind of keep tabs of all those questions, and we can either answer at the end, or I can follow up with answers for you guys afterwards. All right, so go ahead and go to the second slide. All right, so our agenda for today, I'm going to go through the Facebook business pages and Facebook groups and talk to you guys about the differences between the two, as well as the basics of Facebook business pages and how to maximize each element that Facebook has provided to brands, how to create engagement within your community and actually building a community around your page. And also just giving you guys a little bit of tips and tricks when it comes to Facebook and Instagram, considering that they're technically the same company. All right. All right, so Facebook pages versus Facebook groups. I'm sure if you are currently using Facebook in any capacity, you know that whenever you join a group, you are notified with every update. You receive notifications whenever someone comments on things. Those notifications are priority. That is not on purpose. This year in 2020, Facebook actually made a priority of building and cultivating relationships. And a big part of that was the Facebook groups. That is because they're kind of like meetups, but on the Facebook platform. So they know that it's any groups that are on the platform, they are filled with like-minded people that care about the same thing. So they're more likely to engage in the group because they've connected with the group. So those notifications come on purpose, intentionally, by default. So you would have to go in to change the notifications from always being on for a Facebook group. And that is the exact opposite of a brand. So a brand page, you literally have to do a little bit of grunt work in terms of making sure that your content gets out there, because you have to also comply with the Facebook business algorithm and the advertising policies. All of this is to protect the people that use Facebook, to protect the Facebook users. So anytime you're using the pages, by default, you are probably reaching 1 to 3% of your audience with organic reach. The biggest reach I've seen was actually about 5% from a brand, which is still fairly small, but in their community size, they were okay with that. But that's all intentional, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're an advertiser on the platform, Facebook wants to make sure that you comply and you honor the fact that you don't just have a right to the presence of their users. You have to be invited in, which is why if you do have a brand page, like all of our alumni pages are brand pages, they're not groups. So if you find someone who is interested in the content, they've liked some of your posts, but they are not yet connected to the alumni page, you have to invite them to join or to become a fan. So those are some things that are different between the pages versus the groups. And another thing I also want to highlight here, it is very, very possible for someone to follow our pages without being a fan, and then vice versa. So someone could say, I want to be a fan of, I'll use the Low Country chapter, for example. I want to be a fan of the Low Country chapter, but I don't want to see all of the notifications and updates. So they can unfollow all of the updates, but still be connected to the page. All of this is a part of Facebook's commitment to customization for the users. So, that's something to just keep in mind, that because we are running pages, we have to remember we kind of have to treat it like a brand. We have to treat it in the same way, no matter how big or small the brand is, we still have to have that same mindset when communicating with people. All right, and next slide. Perfect. All right. So the basics of a Facebook business page. So I mentioned this earlier, that Facebook's goal is to protect its community. It's to protect the 2.4 billion people that have chosen to be a part of the Facebook platform or the Facebook family of brands. In that, we have to always be mindful that they're going to protect the users first. So in that content, the customization for each platform, for each brand page is available to any and everybody. Whether or not people use it, that's a different story. But you can still customize any of your presence on any of the platforms that Facebook has. It is a pay to play. So in that, I kind of want to address the media support. All of us have a budget connected to our chapters. I would highly recommend that you connect with Sarah or your contact at VCU in the alumni department to make sure you have an allocated budget for your high priority events when it comes to paid media on the social media platform. And I say that because that helps you get the reach that you need. It makes sure that the fans of the page, they see the content, and it's not by chance. Because the algorithm, how it's set up, the 1 to 5%, that's going to be a given. There's no way around it unless you have media support. And Sarah has been great in terms of helping us boost our posts and make sure we get some additional visibility for those high profile events that we really want people to attend. The algorithm is intentionally different. I've said this already. Just kind of want to reiterate some of the differences. So with your personal page, it's intended to show your content to your friends. And I don't know if you guys noticed, there's like a box. If you are on your profile page, there's a box that highlights your friends, but there's a certain group of people that show up in that group. And it changes. And how the algorithm decides who is in that box on your personal page, that is determined based upon a few factors. It's determined on the people who have last came to your profile, or the people who have last engaged with your content, or the people you went to go see, and the people you've engaged with their content. So it is possible to have people on your friends list that you never see, but then you have people that you always see. That's the algorithm at work. The same thing applies for the brand, but within respect to the fact that we still have to honor the guidelines and the policies of advertising, right? Just because we're on the platform, we don't have the right to just have access to all of the people. So when we put out content, the best way to have our page's content appear is through engagement. That's the best way. And when we build engagement, we have to think about it as a conversation and how you would interact with people on the platform, versus us sharing messages out. And I'll give a few examples at the end of what I'm talking about when it comes to building conversation versus like just sharing news type of thing. All right, Sarah, you can go to the next slide. Yes. All right. So when you are building engagement around your business pages, which is our alumni chapter pages, you have to consider an 80-20 rule. Now, whether you are in sales, whether you are in marketing, regardless of where you are in an industry, there's always an 80-20 rule to something. So for social media, the 80-20 rule is 80% of the time, you focus on building engagement. You focus on building your communities, talking with people, learning more about the people who've decided to be a part of your page, having conversations with them beyond just the events. That helps build community, but it also increases engagement on your post, which then helps kind of mitigate that 1 to 5% organic reach that you would have. The more people that engage throughout your time and with the post, the more it tells the algorithm, oh, people care about this information, so give them more. If no one engages with it, the algorithm doesn't work that hard. It won't work that hard unless you put money behind it. And whenever you put money behind it, Facebook is essentially guaranteeing that they're going to give you an estimated reach of people. So they're going to say, we're going to make sure we get this into the hands of these many people based upon the budget that you set forth. But outside of that, community engagement, having conversations. I think we talked about this at the Leadership Summit, but it's totally okay to talk about other things outside of the events. Share the other news that's happening with VCU alumni or what's going on the campus. That's great. It's important for us to do those things because it not only increases engagement on the algorithm side, but it just keeps people really connected. I know before joining the Alumni Association on my side, I didn't even know all of the amazing stuff that changed on campus. So, there are some people who may not be able to go back to Richmond as often. That level of information and detail, they would appreciate that. And they'd be more likely to engage when it's time for the events too. All right, next slide. All right, so Facebook and Instagram, they are totally more than friends, total fact. Facebook was purchased Instagram in 2012, and it was actually a half cash, half stock deal that they did with the founders. In 2018, the founders of Instagram left. Up until then, they kind of left Instagram alone, and it was able to do its own thing, which is why at that time it was still chronological order in terms of like the content that you see on Instagram. You were still able to increase your following fan base fairly easy. But now once the co-founders left, it essentially gave Facebook the opportunity to streamline. It comes with good side and bad side. It's a good thing. It's a great thing for people who actually manage the content. So for example, through Facebook Creator Studio, which is a platform designed for people who manage pages. It is designed for people like us. You go through Facebook Creator Studio, and if you are an admin to any page, it automatically connects to that page, and you can actually schedule content ahead of time for both Facebook and for Instagram. Not only can you schedule the content ahead of time, you can also look at analytics, and you can also engage directly from Facebook Creator Studio. And it doesn't matter if it was a comment on a post or a private message. It is all in one spot, and it's kind of like a hub for everything Facebook and Instagram, which is really awesome. You can also, if we had a post that we decided to boost because we have an event coming up, or it was really important information for the chapter, that information would also be within the Facebook Creator Hub. So you could actually manage that as well directly through there. So with this information, you can essentially do all you need to do for your chapter, schedule it out, which I highly recommend. It just makes it easier, and it keeps you proactive in terms of managing the volume that could potentially happen as you grow. And you can keep a tab on the analytics. Because Instagram was created to be mobile first, which essentially means that the mobile app is priority. Facebook is now in the process of kind of still honoring that, but giving more access to those who use desktop. So in addition to being able to manage all the content through Facebook Creator Studio, you can also go to Instagram.com from your desktop and have access to direct messages there too, which is great for people who have to manage the accounts. So, those are some things that I really wanted to highlight with you guys. I mentioned on this slide the Facebook family of brands. That is essentially Facebook, of course, Instagram, WhatsApp, which is like it's like a text messenger, and it's essentially how Facebook is able to create chatbots within the platforms. So if another thing you could do, if you activate or turn on your chatbot for your page, for the business page, you can have automated responses for those who direct message us, and it will automatically kick off. So if you have upcoming events, or you want your the people in your area to know who the chapter leads are, you can actually create an auto response where if somebody was to message the page, you can say, hey, we will definitely reply as soon as we can. In the meantime, keep an eye out for these upcoming events, or reach out to Altamise or Kathleen if you have questions about anything. That all of that can be automated through WhatsApp, which is another part of Facebook's family of brands. Another family of brands of the Facebook family is called Audience Network. An Audience Network simply allows advertisers on the platform to also promote their content off platform. I know everybody has heard of Google Ads, where you can have an ad on Google and it can go to different websites and things. This is essentially Facebook's version of that. So if we had an ad run, it's important to make sure we check what platforms the ad is running on. By default, it's all of them. That's by default. If you just wanted to run on Facebook, you would have to make sure that it's just clicked for Facebook. or it'll be for all of the family of brands. So it'll go through Messenger, it'll go to Instagram, and it'll go to Audience Network, which essentially finds like-minded, like similar websites that have similar audience sets based upon the targeting. And you can take that and have your content promoted on that website. So that's also a part of Facebook's family of brands. And I believe we're down to the question and answer section. And I wanted to go back to a story I wanted to tell you guys. So for the page, for our brands, for our chapters, we have the opportunity to tell a story. And every single feature that is in the brand page, it allows us to tell that story. So for example, you have a profile picture, you have a cover image, and then also Facebook created another section that allows for long form storytelling, which is, they call it Our Story. And it'll appear, it will appear in the About Us section. All of that is to create a story. So when people come to your page, they have a full experience. I highly encourage you guys, utilize those places. Utilize them. Doesn't have to be static. When I say static, I mean a plain image. It could be video. It could be both. Your cover image up at the top can actually be a slideshow. So if you wanted to highlight prior events, you can certainly do that. And you can have up to, I believe, up to five different images and video connected together. And that helps create a full story experience when other alumni come to the page to see what's available. And then also in the story section, which is connected to the About Us, that's where we can highlight, different ways to connect with the Alumni Association. We can highlight the actual official alumni page there. It's just, and these are, what I'm saying now is literally just things that are popping up in my head that can be recommendations. It doesn't mean that you have to do it this way. It just gives us a lot of options. We can literally customize the experience of the storytelling how we want to. So just wanted to highlight that there, because I think it's really important. Of all the features that we have available to us, oftentimes they're underutilized. People don't realize that that's what they're for, or they're used in a very simplistic way, which isn't always bad, but just know you have other options as well. And I know that was a lot of information. So, Sarah, did you get any questions through chat?
I didn't see a roll through, but thank you so much for that presentation. That was great. I think I learned a lot of info, and I hope that everybody else did too. But now we can just open up the floor if anybody wants to unmute themselves and go ahead and ask Altamis a question on the fly. Or if you have any questions for staff, we have a couple staff that are hanging out on the line as well. So go for it if you do have one. I think someone just popped up.
So Kevin Taylor says, do we have data on engagement in Instagram? And I hope everybody can hear me. This is Stephanie, by the way. Hello. Engagement in Instagram versus Facebook. So right now, I don't know if we have too much data on Instagram engagement as far as VCU alumni's accounts. I know Rob Reed, who is one of our digital strategists here at the VCU Development and Alumni Relations, is on the line, and he might have some more data about our Instagram reach, but we only have a handful of chapters that actually do have Instagram accounts. And I don't know if we have collected data from their accounts, but we could give some recommendations on Facebook engagement, definitely. Rob, I'm not sure if you're able to chime in or can give us a little chat and just let us know if we do have any Instagram data that we could share. But to my knowledge, I'm just not sure right now.
Stephanie, it's Rob. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey there. So, you know, most of the work I do is really in the paid space, and Anthony Langley here is probably the person who's probably best capable of answering that question. But it could be something we look into and get back to. I know all the metrics actually happen within the platform, so I think you actually have to open it up on your phone to see the metrics in Instagram, as I understand it.
Okay, thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
We can also chat with Anthony about that a little more for those groups that do have Instagrams.
Yes, and just to add to that, Rob's point is very accurate. So you can see insights through Instagram, and now they're adding the insights to Facebook Creator Studio, which will, their goal, and they won't confirm nor deny, but I know exactly what they're trying to do, because at one point you can only see 1 week's worth of insights. Like you couldn't see like your overall growth in terms of your followers or anything like that because of how Instagram was originally built. But now that they have integrated it with Facebook Creator Studio, they're now capturing the growth and the follower growth of each Instagram platform that is considered a business account. So that then allows you to go back to say, okay, what was my followers? How many followers did I have in 2020 versus 2021? It is not retroactive though. So it's literally from when they integrated it moving forward. So that's one thing. And then also, if you do have an Instagram account, hashtags on Instagram are a big deal. And it's not just for aesthetics and branding. If you post something on Instagram and it has hashtags associated with it, your work literally just began when the post went live. So what you should do is click the actual hashtags that you've used, find people who use the exact same hashtag. And in Instagram, you're gonna have 2 tabs. You're gonna have most popular and most recent. If the most popular ones will probably have thousands of people who have engaged with it, you don't want that one. Go to most recent, because those are the people who literally posted at the same time you did, which means they're still on the platform or they're paying attention because they know that they scheduled a post to go out and it just went out. Engage with those people, like the post, make them aware that we're on the platform with them. That's a really great way to kind of get people recognizing and having brand awareness that your chapter's on Instagram.
Ultimates, this is and I actually have a question myself.
Yes.
So here in the office, I know Sarah and I and the other staff members, we manage several chapters, and especially us that do regional programs, we have chapters that are all across the country in different time zones. So I was wondering if you had any recommendations on the timing of posts, especially if we're starting to schedule them, and like what times of day are maybe best for putting posts out to get the most visibility and engagement if it's not a paid post.
Yes. So I would highly recommend, because there's no one size fits all for the organic stuff. When you're dealing with paid, it's a completely different ballgame. But if it's organic, really pay attention to the analytics that are built into the page, because it'll give you some insight of, the times of days and things like that. I do have a client that is on the West Coast. But the great thing about social media is it's global. Like everybody sees it. So the actual best time for them was like around 1:30 East Coast time, which is, 11 or 12 o'clock their time. So it was like a sweet spot of like, 1:30 works best. And then also you have to think about the consumer behaviors too. Think about your audience. So if most of your audience are working, or family oriented, anything of that nature. There are time frames that are best practices. So that would be morning before 9, which is before work happens, right before lunchtime. So there's a window of time around 10:30 to 11:30 where people begin to kind of hit a slump and they start checking social media right before lunch. And then in the evening time. So after about 6, 7 o'clock, people then are, kind of settling down. They're more likely to be engaged with the content and, checking to see what the latest updates are. Again, there are a lot of variables go into that. So I would say definitely check your analytics and just kind of start to monitor, when people are most engaged. People show you, like they'll show you in the analytics. So it's best to listen to it. And then also, Stephanie, to your point, if you're managing a lot of different pages, I actually use tools to help me manage all of the different platforms. So Facebook Creator Studio, I use that for Facebook and Instagram without a doubt. All of my clients are in there. All the Instagram account is in fact connected to the Facebook account. That guarantees that it shows up in Facebook Creator Studio. And to make sure it's connected, that means going into the Facebook page, going into settings, and then when you go into settings, on the left side menu, you're going to see Instagram. You would click Instagram, and then that's where you can connect them. So that's how you connect the Facebook account to the Instagram account. And then that also allows for streaming the scheduling to where, like, if you post something on Facebook, it'll ask you, like, do you want to share it on Instagram too? And you just check yes, and it schedules for both.
Awesome. We had one more question from Kevin Taylor. It's about having a group versus a brand page. And Kevin, if you're still there, we wanted to know if you could ask your question out loud, just so we can understand a little bit more of the context. So he says, give him 1 second.
Oh, I remember those days. Like, let me close my office door.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, the DMV chapter is a brand page. And based on everything you're saying, we need to engage a lot more so that we have a bigger reach.
Yes.
Is there anything precluding us from having a group? And is the engagement on a group much higher?
So I'll let the team talk about, I guess if we are able to have groups. But from a perspective in terms of the engagement levels, yes, there is a difference. The brand pages have to work a little harder to garner the engagement on the pages because they are able to promote. They are able to have a paid campaign or boost a post. Within a group, you're not allowed to do that. Groups cannot have paid media for any of the posts or anything like that because that's not what they're designed to do. However, because they are about community and connecting, Facebook has put a higher priority on Facebook groups, which pretty much guarantees the better engagement. People have to intentionally go to the group page and say, I want less notifications from this group, because by default, you're going to get them all. And that's the complete opposite of a brand page. A brand page, we must first we must invite the consumer or the alumni to the group, and they still have the right to say yes or no. And then once they say yes, they can unfollow the updates or, tell Facebook, I don't want to see as many posts from this group, but I still want to follow, or vice versa.
So I guess the next question is to the leadership. I mean, alumni wanting to join a group to make sure they don't miss anything. Are we not allowed to create a group?
A couple of the regional pages, at least as far as I know, did start off with groups. But I think one of the points that Altamis is making is that it's harder to get people, like you have to invite people to the group, whereas a page is more searchable. So the group is closed, like for example, our VCU Alumni Volunteer Leaders page, where we as admins and moderators like specifically add people in, and you kind of like are grabbing people to join the group, whereas a brand page is just out there for anyone to and see the posts and whatnot. And I know you can change the settings on groups, but they're usually more closed. So from our perspective, the pages work a little bit better just because like the big VCU alumni page could tag it, and then people can look at the page, whether or not they want to follow it, or whether or not it's relevant to them, people are still aware of it. Whereas the group, you kind of have to be a member in order to see the content.
And
pros and
Stephanie,
cons.
you bring up a great point. So the brand pages, they are also a part of Google SEO ranking, which means that if someone was to do a search, the Facebook page can be incorporated into the Google search. Facebook group cannot. So groups, if you were to search, Google VCU alumni in Myrtle Beach or whatever, the group will not appear, but the brand page would. So there's more visibility when it comes to a larger presence for brand pages versus the groups.
Got it.
And there are pros and cons to both, right? So there's no right nor wrong way of doing it. It's just a matter of understanding the objectives that you have, and adjusting your approach to how you manage them accordingly.
Got it. So we're collecting emails that we're then sending back to Sarah and Stephanie. And then I'm assuming those emails are then being entered in, and then they're being invited to the brand page, right? And they're being added to the communications. If there's nothing against us creating the group as well with those emails, the two could be connected, right? So a brand page and a group can share the same content.
Yes. Right? So essentially, and I do have a client that has a brand page in a group. It's always recommended if you have any brand of some sort, you need to have a brand page. Like you have to have a brand page, but you can have a group too, and you can connect the groups to the page. So if you're on a brand page, if they have groups, it'll actually have another tab that says groups and the groups that are associated with it. However, there's one thing that you mentioned about the emails. So with the emails, there are a lot of laws about the privacy policies and things like that. We could not take the emails and add them to a group. It still has to go through
invitation.
Yes, it still has to go through a way that the consumer can say, yes, I want to be a part of this group. However, if you have emails that you have gathered, what we could do through the brand page is actually say, okay, Facebook, we know who we want to target, and we have an email list, and we can import that email list into the advertising side and say, find people like these people. Essentially, and that is actually the most powerful, that's the secret weapon of Facebook advertising, because you can make, and they're called lookalike audiences. So they find like-minded people who have similar interests, who essentially we're saying, we want to find other VCU alumni, pretty much. And then the algorithm, you tell it, essentially what the targeting parameters are, and then they find people that look like those people based on all of the information that people tell Facebook every single day.
So that's something that could be happening behind the scenes at VCU.
Yes.
They could be taking the emails that we collect when we register people walking in the door, enter them into the advertising section of the brand page.
Yep. And it could be a part of the advertising ad. So you can say, yep, Facebook, here's my email list. I want to advertise this ad to this email list. Or, yeah, Facebook, I want a lookalike audience based off of this email list. Absolutely.
We also have some policies that we have to follow too, with information that we gather from people at events as well. So with the emails and information that we gather at events, we put it into our database system and update it there. And it is helpful when it comes to sending blast emails out. But that is all that we do with it from that perspective, because they're opting into updating their information with the office so that we can contact them through blast emails more. I'm not really sure that we could do that, but I'm not really sure from a policy perspective if we could do that or we have the capacity to do that, because I managed like 12 pages. Stephanie manages 12 pages, manages a lot of pages. So like it just would be, I think, complicated from that standpoint. But we definitely would be willing to chat and explore switching from a page to a group on a chapter by chapter basis to positively impact your engagement and community building, because I think that that is a great point that Altemes has.
Yeah, but to your point though, Sarah, I wouldn't remove the business page because like we have the group connected to the business page, but then the business page still allows us to garner the reach beyond the group, right?
Yeah.
And then the group just makes sure that, you know, when we essentially drive them to the business page, say, hey, make sure you follow the group. And then we have updates within the group that guarantee notifications go out to all of the people who are a part of it.
Yeah.
And also great point about other restrictions, because I know us being in the education realm, there are other laws that then are added to what, you know, let's say Church's Chicken or Coca-Cola or whatever, they don't have to abide by those. But as a, you know, in the education side, we do. That's just like when I worked at Cartoon Network. So just to blow your mind on things, when I worked at Cartoon Network, any child that I engaged with anywhere, whether it have been on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere, I had to document it in a different location in a spreadsheet, pretty much, talk about how I engaged with them and put as much information as possible about that child to make sure that we never engaged with them again because of COPA laws. So even though Cartoon Network appeals to everybody, you know, there's, you know, people who grew on Cartoon Network, but their target is kids, 6 to 9. And because their target is kids, we can only talk to a kid one time. After that, it's predatory. And if the parent got angry and was like, why the heck is Cartoon Network talking to my kid? They could totally sue and win. So by the end of a year, I had on that spreadsheet over 60,000 outputs. So there's a lot of time consuming pieces. And that's just, you know, because I had to document, you know, the kids and say, hey, I talked to this kid and I'm never talking to them again. But on the other side, like, you know, the more pages you manage, there's a time consuming piece associated to it. And that's why I kept bringing up scheduling. Scheduling is your friend. It is the best thing you can do if you are an admin, because you can literally, what I do, I take a Sunday or Thursday, which is my planning day, and I say, okay, week, I want all of this to go out for my clients. I schedule it, and then it allows me to make sure I'm proactive with people who are engaging at that time. So if you are managing a page, schedule your content, schedule it out. And then you can just, be a little more sporadic and, spontaneous with, random updates from the university.
Do we have any other questions from anybody who's still on?
All right, well, if that is all the questions for today, we are going to close out the webinar. And just a reminder, so this whole thing was recorded, and we're going to put it on our YouTube channel, which we will post in our Facebook group. And you can also ask your staff liaison about the YouTube channel. We've already got some videos up there already, so we're really excited about it. And thank you so much to Altemis. Really loved having you. So glad you're a chapter leader and that you also are just an awesome social media strategist and can share and help other chapters grow. So thank you all so much. I'm going to close out the webinar and I hope you all have a great day.